Welcome, Faith and Ale podcast listeners. This is Don Orico with the Faith and Ale Fort Myers Board of Directors, here to host another great event, which will be taking place this evening virtually, November 12th, 2020, where we will be highlighting the heroism of Captain Daniel Eggers. Captain Eggers' father, William Eggers, will be speaking tonight to our audience, and we're really excited to have him, having celebrated Veterans Day this week, and wanted to give you a preview as to what Mr. Eggers was going to discuss tonight. And so I'm going to introduce Mr. Eggers. Bill, it's great to have you. Tell us a bit about what you're going to talk about regarding your son, Captain Daniel Eggers, who he was, and why his story has motivated you to give this presentation.
Okay, thank you for having me. Daniel was the oldest of 7 children, and he graduated from Cape Coral High School in 1993 and graduated from the Citadel in 1997, where he was commissioned a second lieutenant in the United States Army. After that, actually the day that he graduated, 2 or 3 days later, he married Rebecca, who went to Bryan College, but they met at officers training school in a swamp. And it's funny how they met. Rebecca was in the swamp up to her neck, and she was carrying an M60 machine gun. And Danny went over to her and asked if she needed some help. Well, she kicked him aside, I mean, literally, and said, "No, I don't need any help." Well, that's what started their relationship. So they got married, and they have 2 boys. Both boys are now at the Citadel. They want to be in the service.
Wow.
So Danny became a Green Beret, and I think it was 2003, and he was deployed to Afghanistan his first time, 2003, and everything went pretty well. And when he was deployed in 2004, he was not very happy about it because the walls were like closing in. And to make a story less long, we parted ways when they visited us before he was deployed. They live up by Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And so Danny and I, we had a thing, I guess you want to say, is when we parted ways, I always told him Dominus vobiscum. And his response would be Espiritu tuo. You know, the Lord be with you, and may the Lord be, with you.
Yep.
And so those were our really final words, face to face.
Beautiful.
And he was killed on 29 May 2004. He was the detachment commander on the eastern side by the Pakistan border. And what they did was they got intelligence that some very important people were at a village, and Osama bin Laden had not been caught yet. So they surveyed the village, and 4 o'clock in the morning, I think it was, they hit the village, and there was a lot of action, quite a few deaths of Taliban. No American lives were lost. And then they got intelligence that said that some of the enemy had left on the other side of the village. So they got in their vehicles and went around the pass, and Daniel was in the first vehicle, and it was driven by a Navy SEAL. And there was another U.S. Army soldier and well, actually, 2 Green Berets, a Navy SEAL, and then a Army soldier. He was a Psychops guy.
Mhm.
So they rounded the corner, and the first vehicle blew up that Daniel was in, and the other 3. And the story behind that, Danny's driver, who had been his driver for so long, he left he left the States a week before because he and his wife were having their first baby.
Mm.
And so the Navy SEAL entered the picture to be the driver, and so that was one of God's ways of just the way it is.
Yeah,
So
it's beautiful.
Danny,
You have that outlook on it.
yeah. So fast forward, and Danny made he had the Sony camera. He was the commander, so he had the use of the satellite phone and all that stuff. So he took a lot of pictures,
Mm.
and a lot of pictures were taken of him. So I wanted to have a legacy for my son.
Mm.
And so I put those pictures to a video with music,
Mm.
and I put that video in the military museum in Cape Coral, and I built an exhibit, and that was one of the most popular exhibits in the whole museum. It was a action kind of video.
Mm.
So yeah, Danny never knew anybody that was a stranger, and he was. I have a bio that I don't have in front of me, but he was the patriot of the downcast. He always came to the help of the ones that were having trouble,
Mm.
and peers, priests, and friends would say that he had a great humor, and the love of the Army, love of his family, love of his country.
Mm.
And he was an altar boy in the Catholic Church during the Latin Mass that we used to attend in New Hampshire.
Wonderful.
And he knew all the Latin responses, and his 2 younger brothers, all 3 of them were up there with the Latin responses.
My family attends the Latin Mass up here in Tampa, so it's beautiful that's how you raised your family.
Yeah. In fact, I was raised a Lutheran, and when I got married, I married a Catholic girl, and I was Lutheran. And when I was in Vietnam, I had some Jesus moments where I promised God a few things that I've kept. I've kept my word for 49 years.
Beautiful.
And so Danny and the boys saw all my pictures and all that, and that's probably why Danny was such a just crazy about the Army. Even when he was a kid, when he was in 8th grade, he asked his mother, "Can a man be a priest and a soldier at the same time?"
Mm.
He was 8th grade,
Mm.
and my wife said, "Yeah, the Army has priests. Some of them are ordained, and some of them, are Protestant and everything."
Sure.
And so, yeah, he was on that course really, really early. When he went to high school, and he found out what girls were all about, and I guess things changed
Sure.
in that course.
Well, it's so funny you bring that up, and I don't think ironic, because last November we featured our speaker spoke about the life of Father Vincent Capodanno, who I'm sure served in Vietnam and was killed in action there as a chaplain, serving on the front lines of Vietnam. And his cause is up for his canonization cause continues along. So Danny was not thinking too far outside the box there, because we've had some heroic priests who have served in many of the wars that we have fought in here in the United States,
Absolutely.
going back to I think the Revolutionary War,
Right.
but in the Civil War, in World War One, World War Two, Korea, Vietnam, there have been many heroic priests who have served. So it's wonderful that he was thinking along those lines even at such a young age.
Should I explain the angle of this right now or after the
Well,
video?
well, I think
So Danny was raised the right way. He was the oldest. He was the cement that kept the other six together.
Hmm.
And he always did the right thing. That's what he was taught to do. And it all began with going to mass every Sunday and living a good Catholic life. And he really honored that. And his wife was like me. She converted to the Catholic faith as well after they got married.
Beautiful.
And so when
You're doing a wonderful job giving us some background on Danny. And my question to you would be, what do you think motivate? I mean, obviously he probably viewed you as a hero. But what do you think ultimately drove him? I mean, it's one thing to enlist and another thing to become a Green Beret. So was that parcel of his character to not just do something, but to do it to the absolute greatest achievement, which is to become, a member of the Special Forces and become a Green Beret? What was behind his decision making there?
well, he joined the Army after college and became a captain. And his wife, they were always, it's funny, they always, the two of them got promoted within a day of each other. And she's still in the Army. She's a colonel. But what motivated him was probably me being in the Army and showing him all the pictures of helicopters and all this other stuff. Just really motivated him. He was the battalion commander in his senior year at high school. That's how devoted he was to become a good soldier. And what motivated me to do this was he was such a spiritual person that I would be inept if I didn't share my story with other people to let them know that not only is the Eggers family kicking the walls mad angry, we're not. We're the opposite. We're the opposite because he was taught well and he did the right stuff. And one of the right things that he did, even till the day he died, was he attended mass even in the war zone. And when they had the memorial at Fort Bragg 2 weeks after he died, the Catholic chaplain flew halfway around the world to come say that mass.
Wow.
And to give the family a special message. And should I say what this special message? Okay,
please do. Yeah.
Okay, I'll let it out of the hat right now then. Okay, well, the Catholic chaplain, he was at the pulpit and he had his left hand clasped like he was holding something, and he was articulating with his right hand, telling the story that he knew Captain Eggers. He was at Captain Eggers' camp by the Pakistani border, and Captain Eggers attended 4 out of the 5 confessions and masses that he had. Wow. The chaplain said that Captain Eggers did not attend the last one because he was on a mission. The chaplain went on to say that Captain Eggers didn't have time to sin before he died.
Mm.
He said Captain Eggers, in his belief, was in the state of grace.
Mm.
And the chaplain said that he believed that Captain Eggers was in heaven.
Mm. It's beautiful.
And my wife was squeezing my hand, almost breaking it. It was so emotional. What better words can a family hear than those words from a man that came halfway around the world to tell us that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible.
Yeah, that is incredible.
For me not to share that with other Christians and Catholic men, I would be inept.
And that, is such a wonderful, I'm so glad you shared that, because here your son was obviously very brave, very heroic, but he knew, he was aware, he purposely kept himself as in a state of grace because he knew at any time something like what happened to him could happen. But he wasn't living in fear. He was living his life the way you taught him to live his life. And he was doing everything he was supposed to do, still going about all of his responsibilities, carrying out his missions, serving his country. And yet he never lived in fear. It was always just he sounds like he had a deep, deep abiding faith in our Lord and in the Catholic Church and in its sacraments. And I think that's a really important message for 2020. There's so much fear right now that people are walking around with related to so many different issues, whether it be politics, viruses, rioting, all these different things. But here was your son who was in, halfway across the world, and living, in enemy territory. And he just continued to live his life. He continued to not live in fear, but live as our Lord wanted him to live, and stay in a state of grace, and then was given this great blessing of having died in a state of grace, which is all we can ask for from this life, to die in a state of grace, to have a happy death. And happy death doesn't necessarily, I don't think, mean to die peacefully, but or die on our own terms, but to die in a way where we die in a state of grace. And as long as we're doing that, these secondary fears that many of us are walking around with today need to be just that, need to be secondary. They need to be on the back burner. We need to be prudent in all that we do, as I'm sure your son was, but always remaining cognizant that by remaining in that state of grace and staying close to the Lord, there really is nothing to fear. And that's what Christ taught us when he walked the earth, not to be afraid. It's one of the most commonly repeated phrases in the Bible, is be not afraid. And clearly your son didn't have that as part of his outlook on life. Would you say that was accurate?
Oh, yes. Yes, yeah. Absolutely so. And I often thought about what he thought of me. And that I was a door gunner and a Huey, shot at almost every day, about how brave I was. I'm not saying I was brave, but he's saying how brave I was. I've done that over 150 times.
Yeah.
So, I would be inept to not tell you that 2 weeks before Daniel died, he called his mom from the top of a mountain, and he said, "Mom, I've reached my apex. I've done everything I wanted to do. If I don't come home, please take care of Rebecca and the boys." And the last thing he told his mother in that sat phone was, "Mom, I'll always be with you." And those words in our family and the extended family and his wife and kids, we all text each other every once in a while that we have a Danny moment.
Yeah.
He's with us. He's just with us. And to keep the memory alive, 3 weeks after he died, the White House called us and said, President Bush wants to see us at MacDill Air Force Base.
Mm.
We did that, and he talked to the kids, and he put them in the corner, and he told them how sorry he was. And the kids never complained after that again. That was closure for them. And then 9 months later, they named a huge facility in Kabul, Camp Eggers. And then just recently, the White House called us 5 days before Memorial Day and said, the president wants you to be at Fort McHenry for Memorial Day to talk about your son.
What an honor.
And and then we got a call that Ivanka Trump wanted to meet us when she came to Fort Myers. My wife and I met her face to face, and she spoke some very, very kind words, like her father did, about our family. And it's just why Danny? Why all the stuff that Danny was? Thousands of other men and women that died, but why was Danny, and his family the only ones that were mentioned on Memorial Day? And so
he left a legacy. He left the right legacy behind.
And I must say that our family is doing the right thing too, because we all want to see our son in heaven as well.
Sure. It's great motivation.
Sure is.
So Captain Eggers, his awards and decorations included the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Achievement Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, Combat Infantryman Badge, the Expert Infantryman, why can't I say that? Infantryman Badge, the Parachutist Badge, and the Special Forces Tab. Just an incredible military legacy. But as you've highlighted here, his greatest legacy was dying in a state of grace. And that is the ultimate legacy, no matter what we accomplish in our life, professionally, what we leave behind with our family, how we do in terms of getting them closer to heaven, helping them achieve that ultimate goal. And then ultimately, obviously, how we die is really what matters. Everything else passes away. But it's so wonderful that you have continued his legacy, and we are so honored that you will be speaking to our men tonight about his legacy. It's such a pivotal time in our country when there's a lot of, I would say, confusion and debate about the merits of being an American and the contributions that many of the citizens have had on this country, on the world. Agree or disagree with some of the foreign policy decisions of previous administrations and presidents, you can't deny the heroism, the bravery, the legacy left behind of the men and women of the United States military, and the relationships they built with obviously their fellow servicemen and women, and then obviously the types of families they've raised, and how proud we can be of many of the military families like yours. So we're really excited to have you speak and give us your entire presentation tonight. Excited to see the videos that we know you'll be sharing with us. Before we do sign off here, any final words before we hear from you again tonight, Mr. Eggers?
Yes, and not kudos to my wife, the mother of 7. We not only had Daniel deployed, but we had our youngest boy, Billy, deployed in Iraq. in 2003 and 2004, just like his older brother.
Mm.
So my wife had two boys deployed in a war zone at the same time.
Wow.
And it's one thing to be a dad, and it's another thing to be a mom.
Yeah.
And she is one heck of a good mother. And I would be inept if I did not tell our men that. And she's the cement with our faith that holds everything together on that end.
And
She's my mentor.
yeah, she brought you into the faith. So, I mean, that unto itself, that incredible accomplishment on her end in raising her family in the Catholic faith, and obviously raising children that love their faith and love their family and are pillars of our community. So we thank you, we honor you, and salute you and your wife, what you have done for Southwest Florida and for our country at large. And I thank you for taking time to chat with me today. And we look forward to the rest of your presentation this evening.